You can warm up easily if you have a nice little heater, a nice blanket, or somebody to cuddle with you. It's nice. You get a nice hot chocolate. You get some coffee.
Maybe.
Some
You know what I'm
tea.
into right now is the pumpkin coffee at Dunkin' Donuts.
Everybody's into the pumpkin coffee.
Oh, yeah.
You're the girl who everybody comments on Twitter and says...
I haven't tweeted one thing about pumpkin
yeah,
anything.
I don't believe you.
Go look at my Twitter.
We're going to have by the end of the day.
On the break, go look at my Twitter.
Pumpkin spice latte tweet by the end of the day.
All right. Well, now that we're arguing, it's a good time to switch over to news and talk about what's going on this week. Now, last week and actually the past 2 weeks, all we've been talking about is Syria, but it's almost on the back burner right now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything about it in about a week and a half.
They're just hammering out the details, which we'll get to later, but biggest story of the week was this Navy Yard shooting.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, another tragedy with guns, with firearms that we see too much of, obviously. But 12 lives lost in a situation that, one, could have been completely avoided had the background check been completed up to par.
Well, what about his security clearance, too? I mean, he had medium security clearance.
I don't quite understand.
Where he'd had some discrepancies with his record in the Navy in the past.
Completely dropped the ball on the background check, which did show that a few years ago, I think it was in 2008, that he was angry, and he shot out the tires on an old vehicle.
Yes, I had read that. Yep.
So, I don't know. It just seems like the situation could have been completely avoided.
Yeah.
And the situation shouldn't come as a shock to people who assume that guns are good.
Yeah. Well, and what came as such a shock, and even President Obama said this week too, is that it happened not only on American soil, but on, in Washington, on the site of, where we're supposed to feel most safe, where there's national security.
Now, let's also remember that there's a big argument out there that more guns will make people feel more safe. Now, this man, Aaron Alexis, goes into a Navy Yard, a very highly secured area, 2.5 miles away from the White House where the president sleeps.
Yep.
1.5 miles away from the Capitol where the nation's most important public servants are, and pulls out a gun and kills 12 people. And I don't think that he thought that it was any less secure than I think it is. I don't think that argument of if there were more guns there, it would have been more safe.
Less people would have been killed or something like that.
Just think of all of that security in that in that 3-mile radius where he was, on that Navy Yard, between the White House and the Capitol, in Washington D.C.
Yep.
It just
to even dispute, okay, well, could have more people have been killed and they weren't? So what? The fact that
one person
dies is too many. Exactly. And now, does this reignite this fight for gun control that it's been at such a standstill? I mean, in my opinion, after Newtown, to even not have stuff pass after that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And as more time passes, the issue becomes, you're almost desensitized to it.
It's difficult for me to even comprehend this issue anymore as an argument. For people to walk around with firearms, who don't have to get licensed for them, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I needed to spend 15 hours driving a car with my parents, like 30 hours in driver's education on Saturday mornings.
A year with a permit, if you're talking about driver's license.
A year with my permit.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a driver's test. And only then, if I didn't hit the curb during my parallel park, could I get my driver's license.
Right.
And that's ridiculous, considering the fact that all I have to do in Texas is sign up for a bank account at Chase, and they give me a Glock.
Right. And it's like, to the people that it's their right to bear arms, and it's a constitutional right. Do you know that saying in school, and this is a very extremist opinion on the matter in one way. In school, you'd get something taken away because a couple people ruined it for you, and then it was for all the kids.
Right.
It was like a couple people ruin a good thing, if you can even call it a good thing, for the rest of the kids. I honestly think that's what's going on in this country. Like, I'm sorry that you feel like your rights are being taken away, but there are people that are ruining it for the rest of you, and that's just the bottom line.
And I mean, you think about it a little bit more, and you look at Iowa, which had just passed a law that says blind people are allowed to own guns.
Yes. That is the most ridiculous.
What?
But can they drive cars back to your car?
No, they can't.
You can't drive a car, sir, and get from A to B, go to the grocery store, but
you can
if you
walk
want to
down
shoot
the
out
street
the grocery store.
Yeah, with a semi-automatic rifle, go ahead. Do whatever you got to do.
I mean, it's just... So I do think it's going to come back on
Yeah, and then you have
the radar.
And then you have your obvious conspiracy theorists who think this is just another ploy to take away our guns.
Yeah. Look, if the rest of the world operated the same way we did, then they'd let people have guns and all this were happening in the rest of the world. You can't make a strong argument against it, but there are countries, functioning world power countries, that operate without weapons, without civilians having weapons.
I don't get it. And then you look at the numbers and you look at how many deaths by firearm
accidental and purposeful
accumulate in this country, and it's astonishing that we still allow it to occur.
Right. And so, to be more specific, he used an AR-15, and that's been very common. Back in the news, it says he unleashed a barrage of bullets. It's a rifle, and he also had a semi-automatic handgun. So the AR-15 was used for most of the shooting, and this article talks about how this is a common weapon,
right,
for these kind of incidents.
And it's again, we're talking about gun control here. And then you look at what the lawmakers have said after this tragedy takes place, and they're more focused on reviewing and fixing deficiencies within existing federal contracting hiring practices.
Okay.
Which makes sense because obviously he should not have been hired, and obviously he should not have been given clearance. But
how about after, when he's been? He was not. It was just a general discharge, or was it an honorable discharge? I think it might have been.
I think it was general. I might be lying.
Check my notes. Honorable discharge because they couldn't make the case for just a general discharge or even further dishonorable. So there's no red flags then for him. And that was the problem.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, we could go on for days.
Yeah.
With examples of why something needs to take place and why something needs to change. Not only in the law of the land, but in the mentality of the land.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That says, listen, it is our right. And I get that, because it is. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I think I want a gun when I'm older. I think I would like one. Just because I think it's kind of cool.
For protection?
Not even for protection, because if somebody came into my house and wanted my television, and I shot them in the chest because they wanted my television, I think that'd make me a little crazy. And I think I'd rather them have my television than me have killed a man over my television.
Well, do you think, if you were to grow up, you are up, but if you were to, have a house and a family and own a gun, you almost feel like you've got more power if someone were to break in your house. You don't feel helpless.
That's fair.
So you're more inclined to use it?
Right, but you know what? The thing is, I feel like I'm mentally capable enough to know when to use a gun.
Till you're not.
Okay. As opposed to when not to use a gun. Because if somebody comes in my house, like I said, if somebody comes in my house wanting my television, they can have it.
Right.
I don't want to kill a man over a TV. But if somebody comes in my house threatening my family, that changes the story.
Right.
And again, I think I'm mentally capable, but you know what? I shouldn't have that ability to say, hey, listen, I'm mentally capable. There should be a test that says, okay, he's mentally capable enough to own this firearm, to not use it on his dog, to not, go crazy on his wife and children.
But my response is situations change. I mean, at one point he was in the Navy and he was, contributing citizen, and then what changed where he then started to get a little darker, get a little bit more depressed, and then what leads you to go do this? You have to go from a really, really
you have to go into a dark
place. Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't agree that having a stricter background checks or check your mental state is going to prevent. I mean, because that changes.
Well, that's fair.
Monthly, daily.
I think that's fair, but I think it's a step, and I don't think you can take. You can't do a 40-yard dash in 4 steps.
Right. Well, and
you have to take the steps to get there.
I've been so disappointed in the steps so far. When universal background checks weren't passed, That's ridiculous. And that was a huge defeat, and I totally disagree.
And that's where the first baby step needs to be taken. And it's unfortunate that we need to take baby steps for such an elementary problem that can be taken care of very easily.
Because not only that does it make sense for legislation, the public wanted it.
Yeah.
So to deny that was just a huge mistake in my eyes. So.
Yep. Baby steps.
But like you said, we could debate this for hours, and the sad fact is more tragedies are going to happen before something's done.
Right. The sad fact is 12 people died. And
Right.
the sad fact is 12 more
And this
people
won't,
died.
right, exactly. This won't put an end. We won't put a stop to it today or, in my
course
opinion, in the near future. So
I don't see it happening.
I don't either. All right, what else do we got going on? Let's get all of our depressing
Let's
stuff
get
out of
all
the
the
way,
depressing
and
stuff.
then we'll have fun on the
Okay,
back end.
Good, let's do that. Well, let's talk about then, if we're going to get depressing, let's talk about Seaside, New Jersey.
I mean, these poor people in New Jersey.
1 year after Hurricane Sandy decimated the Jersey Shore.
The exact same boardwalk. I
Yep.
mean, everybody remembers those images of the roller coaster in the ocean. This is the exact
Yep.
same place.
Again, just another tragedy. Luckily, nobody was hurt. However, obviously, a massive fire.
And they discovered yesterday, I think it was made known, that it was an electrical fire due to repairs from
Hurricane
Sandy.
Yes, so what happened was the electrical wiring, which was installed in the 1970s, was compromised by some severe, weather, obviously eroded by the salt water and the wave
Right.
action that was brought on by the flooding by Sandy. And a frozen custard stand, I guess if you want to
Which
look
is,
for
there's some irony,
in
yes.
the situation, you look at a frozen custard stand starting a fire. So that, I think it destroyed, what was it, like 22 businesses or something like that? And
across 4 blocks.
yeah, and
the
it's
boardwalk.
it's actually again, it's just a tragedy. It's very upsetting actually to see all the work that was put in. Chris Christie is Stronger Than the Storm and that whole.
You know what's
shebang.
so upsetting to me is that a lot of people went back and they had businesses operating on
Right
that
away.
Jersey Shore this summer, and that's
Yeah.
the biggest time for tourism. And people were down at the Jersey Shore, and they were making strides to get back to their sense of normalcy after Sandy. So the summer wraps up. We have Labor Day. Everybody goes back to their respective homes in New York, New Jersey, and then this happens. It's almost like they weren't even gone
Yeah.
2 weeks, and the memories that they created this summer are all gone again.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy. And I mean, I guess again, if you want to look at the silver lining of the entire situation, nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there were probably more electrical problems underneath that boardwalk.
Like it was bound to happen.
It was bound to
eventually.
happen. And let's be happy that nobody was hurt in the whole situation.
But let's talk about the resilience of New Jersey.
Will they come back again?
Will they? And even Governor
Is
Chris
it
Christie.
New Jerseyans? Is
I
that
think
what
so.
it is?
Yeah.
It's not like New Jerseyites or something?
I'm going with New Jerseyans.
I'm going to look that up. You go ahead.
And, Governor Chris Christie started that press conference, and he has such an ability, and say what you want about
Oh, he is.
Christie, is that
he's a
he
speaker,
can
I'll tell you
talk,
that.
he can speak, and he can talk and relate to people on a very
People level.
yeah.
Yep.
So he started that press conference, he goes, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel like I could throw up. And that's just really embodies what everybody was feeling. Like you just feel sick to see that happen. So, are they resilient? I don't think you hear as much the Jersey Strong that you heard right after Sandy, because it's like, how many times can you get hit and knocked down and get back up?
Yeah, and again, just to touch on that Chris Christie point you made, he is a man of the people, and it's easy to see when he makes comments like that or when he talks about things like that he is the people's man up there. And he's done a very good job of connecting with the people after Sandy, after a tragedy like this, and being less of a politician and more of a public servant,
Right.
which is something I think we've lost.
It's
all through.
refreshing.
Yeah, it is, and it's nice to see.
Well,
Okay,
let's hear the answer. What is it?
well, okay. This is weird.
I'm right. It's going to be New Jerseyans.
Well, hold on.
Floridians.
Let
it's
me read the
Floridians.
entire answer. You ready?
Yep.
All right.
Now, this is what you call natives of New
This
Jersey.
is what you call native of New Jersey.
Okay.
It's a long answer. Don't get me wrong
Be
here.
brief.
All right. So apparently language evolves, and it was a New Jerseyite. Okay.
Was.
And then again, blah, 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 blah. Residents of the British Isle. All right, this is
All
weird.
right, you're giving me a history I don't want. What's the correct answer? What do you call them in modern day?
You can call them whatever you want. Jerseyite or Jerseyan.
So there's no one winner?
There's no winner.
Oh,
We're
man.
both stupid.
No, I'm right.
All right, sure.
Whatever. All right, let's take a little break and listen to a song, and then we'll come back with a little bit more news, and then we'll have some fun.
Well, according to Bruce Springsteen, really quickly, it's
What?
Jerseyan. So
Obviously, the boss says it's New
Jerseyan.
Jersey, and I'm right.
You take
Before we go for a break, tell me I'm right.
Allie, you win.
All right, that's all I want to hear. Okay, we'll be back.
today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw